Hello and welcome to Channel 51 Independent News. And there is a lot to get through today. There has been a major earthquake in Far East Russia. Social media ban for under 16s has sparked a backlash, and a surprise alliance. NAPLAN results once again have disappointed. QVAX has been, well, we've had a win for 10,000 people who gave their samples in vaccine trials, as they will no longer be destroyed. RFK Jr. has identified 8 jabs that may cause autism, and Keir Starmer calls for a Palestinian state as Egypt, Qatar and Saudi Arabia call for Hamas to leave power. And John Ratcliffe prepares to declass as Donald Trump calls treason, whilst taking a new tact on the Epstein story, and the New York killer motive has been revealed. But to get us underway today, we have a massive earthquake off the far east of Russia. Originally classified as an 8 on the Richter scale, it has since been upgraded to 8.7. And there have been numerous warnings from around the world, advisories for parts of Russia, Japan, Alaska, after this magnitude 8, now 8.7 earthquake off the Russian coast. And there's even been an emergency alert, an extreme one put in place for the National Weather Service, issuing this tsunami warning. A series of powerful waves and strong currents may impact coasts near you. You are in danger. Get away from coastal waters, move to high ground or inland now. Keep away from the coast until local officials say that it's safe.
Welcome to Hannity. We begin tonight with a Fox News alert. If you are in Hawaii, if you are in parts of Alaska, please listen very closely. A tsunami warning has now been issued for both states, and a tsunami watch has been issued for the entire west coast of the U.S. We're going to keep you posted on this throughout the night. But first,
yeah, that's massive news. 8.7 is enormous. Now, back in Australia now, and the YouTube and social media ban has resulted in Meta, which is the parent of Instagram and Facebook, YouTube, TikTok and Snapchat, running ads and events saying their services are safe for children, and the possibility of a legal challenge. Meanwhile, the Australian government will announce its social media platforms will be included in the under 16 bans. The Social Services Minister, Tanya Plibersek, on Monday said the government would not be bullied out of taking action by any social media giant. But the tech companies are doing their best to argue that their services should be exempt from the legislation that comes into effect in December. And all social media companies have made efforts to tone down the apparent risks and dangers. So Facebook and Instagram has been showcasing its teen account settings for Instagram as a not-so-subtle message to the government. Last week, Meta also announced new protections around direct messages, including blocking features, in addition to the existing protections around automatically censoring potential nude images. YouTube, less subtle. Its platform originally promised an exemption from the social media ban last year by then Communications Minister Michelle Rowland. Meanwhile, the E-Safety Commissioner, however, last month recommended to the government that YouTube not be excluded, highlighting research showing when children encounter harmful material, it is on YouTube more than any other platform. This month, TikTok has been running ads on both TikTok itself and on Meta's platforms about the educational benefits for teens for the vertical video platform. And Snap announced it had partnered with the Australian Federal Police-led Australian Centre to Counter Child Exploitation for a series of educational videos rolled out on several Australian influencer accounts, as well as ads advising parents and teens how to spot grooming and sextortion. And of course, there are much more other concerns about our rights and who will be involved, and is this about overreach? And we'll cut now to this big story coming out of the Australian Senate. Seeing the writing on the wall, Senator Ralph Babet, in this compelling report put together by Cat A on X, he has successfully garnered the support of the Coalition and the Greens for his urgent motion against age assurance measures for access to the internet, with the majority agreeing this code entailed significant digital surveillance under the guise of child protection. The Coalition, they took aim at Julia Inman Grant, and not only that, the Greens, they bought in as well. I'm going to play you now a collection of clips compiled by Cat A, and we'll come back.
Welcome, but let's not kid ourselves. This is not about protecting children. It is about building a surveillance infrastructure under the cover of safety. Now, under this new code, Australians who are logged into search engines like Google, Microsoft and others will be required to undergo age assurance. That's not a polite "how old are you" at the cinema. That's government ID checks. That's biometrics scanning. That's data mining. Now, we're rapidly marching towards a society where privacy online is not just frowned upon, but perhaps is going to become illegal. Yes, we've got to protect kids online, but not by sacrificing the freedoms of every Australian adult in the process. The code's got to be amended. We've got to remove the age assurance requirement and just restore some common sense before the only thing that's going to be safe online is big tech's grip on all of our lives. To the Greens, I say thank you for supporting my motion in defence of privacy and against creeping surveillance. I never thought I'd say that, but thank you. Hell must have frozen over. To the Liberal Party, your "We Believe" statement says that you support the inalienable rights and freedoms of all people. Here is your chance to show it. Stand on the right side of history and join me in defending the Australian people. All senators support my motion, but let's see what the Libs do. Thank you.
Next up, Liberal Senator Maria Kovacic. She took aim at Julie Inman-Grant.
Safety Commissioner's dual role in developing, regulating and enforcing her own policies is unique. But the concentration of this authority is now raising concerns which may require greater scrutiny, for example through this parliament. We must ensure, and this must always be the case with legislation and with delegated legislation, that the operations of bodies do not stray away from the intent of the parliament when it was first established. Let's be clear, the E-Safety Commissioner is not an elected position. Their decisions do not come before the parliament for us to scrutinise. The remit of the E-Safety Commissioner, without adequate safeguards, is getting out of hand, and we must pause to consider this. Ensuring every adult logs into an account to browse the internet is taking the E-Safety Commissioner's power to a new level, which must be debated and scrutinised further. But we can't lose sight of the fact that we must protect our children from online harms. Thank you.
And so Green Senator David Shoebridge said the code does entail significant digital surveillance dressed up as child protection.
This code does entail significant digital surveillance dressed up as child protection, and it won't achieve the child protection goals. It bypassed Parliament, it's ignored the evidence, some of it gathered by the government's own trial, and will harm people that it claims to protect. We support pausing this code, going back to the drawing board. Protecting children shouldn't mean surveilling everyone. We can have both safety and privacy, but not through this broken process. So what would work? Well, I tell you what would work. Providing a statutory duty of care to the platforms. Requiring that duty of care and then putting in place clear
And before the vote took place, Alec Antich, he, summed it all up by saying we will descend into a Chinese surveillance state.
The point has always been about protecting kids online, which nobody in this room disagrees with. It's trite to suggest otherwise. Yet the measures that are used to achieve this always seem to come back to the issue of requiring more government intervention, more government surveillance of Australians. And why is it happening? Why is there? What is the real story here? Well, the corporate sector and the administrative state have lost control of the narrative. They've lost control of the media cycle, and they're driven by the fear that the internet and social media platforms are now empowering populist and alternative views which they regard simply as unhelpful. Just sounds like free speech to me. But the consequences of this new code will be yet further erosion of our privacy and another step towards this digital dystopia that we've been talking about. And as a country that purports to identify itself as free and as a country that believes, I think, at its core that unnecessary surveillance is unacceptable, this is extraordinary. We're not communist China, but if you want to know what Australia's future looks like in its current trajectory, go and have a look at Shenzhen in China. Cameras everywhere, facial recognition, a digital currency and a social credit system. And that is not an Australia that I want. It's not an Australia that I think that anyone really wants, but it's an Australia that the bureaucracy and the political class are slow marching us towards. It's that serious. This is not just about protecting kids online. And once this system is in place, the digital snare trap is in place, it is going to be impossible to wind back.
Time for the debate has expired. The question is that the motion moved by Senator Babet be agreed to. Those of that opinion say aye. Against say no.
So they're small steps but significant when you can play politics down the middle of the line, 51-49, and you can get the Greens, the UAP and the Liberals all to agree that there is an encroachment on our civil liberties under the guise of safety. Well done, Senator Ralph Babet, and that shows you that there is no such thing as a lost cause. You just keep on going. Meanwhile, in education still, 1 in 3 students fail to meet NAPLAN benchmarks as disadvantage of falling behind. Now, some 94% almost of students participated, which was the highest rate since 2017. Results found that 4 in 10 students performed below expectations in grammar and punctuation, indicating they struggle to recognise verbs and, God forbid, pronouns in sentences. Just over half of Indigenous students in major cities were not meeting benchmarks in reading, writing and numeracy, more than double the proportion of non-Indigenous students in urban areas. That rose to 8 in 10 of Indigenous students in remote areas, and more than 9 in 10 in very remote areas. Female students continue to outperform male students' literacy across every year group, particularly in writing, while male students exceeded at higher rates in numeracy. So once again, the education system seems to be failing our kids, but not when it comes to indoctrination. Meanwhile, over in Queensland, there's been some more good news around QVAX, and David Crisafulli, the Queensland Premier, has been able to achieve a significant result here that well, first of all, he took a stand against the UN, he took a stand against net zero and also mandates. Now, I spoke to Julian Gillespie on the Daily Australian about the challenge to the biological samples set to be destroyed in Queensland. Well, Crisafulli overturned the Queensland Health Department decision to destroy the data or the samples, which preserves one of the most important COVID vaccine data sets in the world, comprising biological samples from nearly 10,000 people to test the safety and efficacy of the shot. Now, Malcolm Roberts has made mention of it also in Australian Parliament. It is a significant deal.
Thank you. They promised you safe and effective. Instead, they delivered sudden and unexpected. So reads the billboard that New Zealand SOS erected, a group of 9,000 New Zealand doctors, health professionals and academics. 9,000. Courage is contagious. Their byline is, "It's time to remove the government from the consultation room." For many years, I've spoken about the primacy of the doctor-patient relationship. I've spoken against the creeping, insidious influence of health bureaucrats into that relationship, influence exerted to benefit the pharmaceutical industry over the interests of everyday Australian patients. And I've spoken about the abuse of power and regulatory capture of AHPRA and health regulators. In recent months, I've joined the fight against the Queensland Health Department's decision to destroy biological samples taken from 10,000 volunteers used to test the safety and efficacy of COVID injectables. A bad decision, I'm happy to say, has been overturned. Thank you, Premier Crisafulli from Queensland. I always say injectables because these dangerous killer products are not vaccines, they're a biological experiment which failed. Tens of thousands of people died and many more live with adverse reactions, which is bureaucrats speak for having their health and their lives destroyed. One Nation will close the Therapeutic Goods Administration and its related crony committees, filled as they are with personnel that pharmaceutical companies employed, funded, educated and now seek to regulate. Australians were healthier and safer when the Health Department made these decisions with the benefit of close parliamentary scrutiny. We must go back to that system. One Nation is preparing legislation to prevent the revolving door between Parliament, the public service and private industry, so a person cannot go from regulating Big Pharma to work for Big Pharma. We continue to call for a Royal Commission into our COVID response. We must understand how the disproportionate homicidal response to a bad flu killed many tens of thousands of people and maimed many more. Justice must be served or more people will die.
Senator, your time's expired. Senator.
Well, Malcolm Roberts is certainly laying it on thick. Now, Chris Cuomo used to be on CNN, and he told us during the pandemic that he and CNN will tell you what to think. Well, as the rates of autism have skyrocketed to a shocking 1 in 19 children in California, which is a state known for having the best collection protocols, it's game on as RFK Jr. has revealed 8 vaccines which could be the primary culprits in connection to autism. Take a look at this and Chris Cuomo's face.
The boogeyman attached to the latest efforts with the MMR vaccine is that Bobby Kennedy is so bent on proving that autism comes from vaccines that now he's going to do it with one of the best known and tested vaccines, the MMR vaccine, which is really important to society, and he's going to mess with it. That's the concern out there from the latest reporting. What do you want people to know about what this is about?
Well, first of all, that's not, I've never targeted the MMR vaccine. I've written 5 books on vaccines, and none of them have targeted the MMR vaccine. What I've said is that we should do testing, and we should particularly test for autism on vaccines. The MMR has actually been tested, but the 6 vaccines that are the primary culprits, the 6 vaccines that are, or the 8 vaccines, I beg your pardon, that are given during the first 6 months of life, none of them have ever been tested for their link to autism. The Institute of Medicine, which is part of the National Academy of Sciences, has been scolding and rebuking CDC since 1991 to do those tests. It did it in 2013, and it demanded again, you need to do those studies. In 2014, CDC has never done them. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at those. We're going to look at all the potential sources of the etiology of autism, not just vaccines, but food, changes in our environment, changes in behavior, any possible. We need to know, listen, Chris, autism rates in 1970 were 0.7 in 10,000, so less than 1 in 10,000. The biggest epidemiological study in history was done in Wisconsin in 1970, and it validated many other studies from the same era. And it looked at 900,000 kids who was looking for autism. 900,000 kids had found 3. They said this is what the rate is, 0.7 in 10,000. Well, today it's 1 in 10. It's 1 in every 31 children. And it's actually probably worse than that because California, which has the best collection protocols, in its state is reporting 1 in every 19 children, 1 in every 12.5 boys. So something is causing it. And we know it's an environmental factor. Genes do not cause epidemics.
Meanwhile, Keir Starmer has come out and said that he will follow France's lead and recognise Palestine as a state unless Israel comes to the table and ends the war.
On the 7th of October 2023, Hamas perpetrated the worst massacre in Israel's history. Every day since then, the horror has continued. The hostages are still being held today. The Palestinian people have endured terrible suffering. Now, in Gaza, because of a catastrophic failure of aid, we see starving babies, children too weak to stand, images that will stay with us for a lifetime. The suffering must end.
We begin with breaking news out of the UK this morning. Its government will recognise the state of Palestine unless Israel agrees to a ceasefire in Gaza. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, announced his country will join France and recognise a Palestinian state at the United Nations in September.
I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire, and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution.
Israel condemned the move, its foreign minister saying Israel rejects the statement by the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. The shift in the British government's position at this time, following the French move and internal political pressures, constitutes a reward for Hamas and harms efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza and a framework for the release of hostages. The US President Donald Trump agreed with Israel, saying he does not support the recognition of a Palestinian state.
You know, you're rewarding Hamas if you do that, and I don't think they should be rewarded. So I'm not in that camp, to be honest. We'll let you know where we are, but I am not in that camp. Because if you do that, you really are rewarding Hamas, and I'm not about to do that.
Meanwhile, there have been calls from Egypt, Qatar and Saudi Arabia for Hamas to disarm and exit Gaza to end the war with Israel. There you go. Arab countries, the three of them, have signed onto a statement calling for Hamas to disarm and end its rule in Gaza in a bid to end the devastating war in the Palestinian territory. 17 countries plus the EU and Arab League are throwing their weight behind a 7-page text agreed at a United Nations conference on reviving the two-state solution for Israel and the Palestinians. In the context of ending the war in Gaza, Hamas must end its rule in Gaza and hand over its weapons to the Palestinian Authority with international engagement and support in line with the objective of a sovereign and independent Palestinian safe state. Now, meanwhile, in other news, we've now learnt that in less than 48 hours, it's believed CIA Director John Ratcliffe is expected to release declassified documents related to Crossfire Hurricane. Documents will show that the FBI knew full and well that when they started Crossfire Hurricane, it was nothing more than a ruse approved and manufactured by Hillary Clinton and her campaign. Here now is Donald Trump speaking with Miranda Devine.
And so are you feeling like even if Barack Obama has presidential immunity, do you think it's kind of justice for them to have to lawyer up, as James Clapper says?
I do. Look, Clapper lied to Congress.
Yeah.
Comey lied to everybody.
Brennan, yeah.
Brennan, he was maybe the worst of the group. These are all bad. These are lowlifes. These are losers. These are losers. And, you know, I've been beating them for 10 years. You know how many times they were after me for so many different things? And when you think of it, I've been beating them for 10 years. And you know it was false. You know it was all bullshit. It was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
It was, but you have to explain that to other people. But in the end, they got it. They got it. And we won we won every state. We won everything. So I said, look, you can't do that to Hillary Clinton. I was the one, I killed it. And then they do the same thing to me, like.
So no more Mr. Nice Guy?
Well, I just want to be fair. Ultimately, it's up to Pam. I think she's doing a great job as Attorney General. It's up to her and her group. But they did a lot of bad things. I mean, I would say it was treason. It was treason. They made up all these stories, just fake stories. And yeah, I would say it was serious treason and hurt the country and put the country in danger. You know, they did on the Russia hoax. They lied unbelievably. How about Putin being accused? And he's no angel, that's for sure. But, you know, what does he think? He's sitting back and he's being accused of stuff. And he's probably saying, like, these people are crazy.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Trump has also given an ultimatum to Vladimir Putin, calling on 10 days for him to get his act into gear, or else tariffs will be applied.
9 to 10 to 12 days. Has that started yet, or when can we, see the official statement that is the new deadline?
I'll tell you what, I'll give it to you now. Do you want a big scoop?
Yes, please.
Everybody else, close your ears, okay? You ready?
I'm ready.
10 days from today.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it.
Good.
Have you communicated?
We have a scoop.
Thank you.
And then, we're going to put on tariffs and stuff, and I don't know if it's going to affect Russia, because he wants to obviously probably keep the war going. But we're going to put on tariffs and the various things that you put on. It may or may not affect them. But
So he actually limited it an extra day. Remember, yesterday he said 12 days, 10 to 12 days, and now he's saying 10 days from today. So that means it's an 11-day thing. The tariffs, by the way, would mainly be on those who do trade with Russia. So it would have a big impact on them. But he's right when he says it doesn't know if Vladimir Putin actually cares about this, instead wants to keep the war going.
I think it's fair to say we're seeing the deal making happening in real time.
Yep.
So that was brand new from President Trump. All right, now this.
Goodness me, it's all happening, isn't it? So we're just getting pictures through now of the tsunami starting to hit off the coast of Russia. We'll play that clip for you now. Significant and just the start. We've also been told that the US Embassy in Tokyo has been ordered to evacuate. 9-foot waves are expected to strike Japan. Tsunami warnings now cover Russia's eastern coast, Alaska's Aleutians and Hawaii. Oahu emergency officials urge residents to seek higher rise shelter, 10 stories tall, 4th floor or higher. The impact expected to hit there 7:15 p.m. local time. Please, if you know somebody, send the warnings. I'm sure they're all aware, but please get that message out there as quickly as possible. Now, also in another big story, of course, we learned yesterday about this New York killer, Shane Tamura, the gunman that killed 4 people in the building's lobby. 3, and then another on the 33rd floor before turning the gun on himself. Now, the floor held the offices of Rudin Management. However, on Tuesday, New York Mayor Eric Adams said there was a reason to believe that Tamura likely intended to go to the offices of the National Football League, the NFL, which was also housed in the block. He appeared to have gone to the wrong floor, said Adams. There are 2 different elevator banks. Some banks don't go to every floor. He appeared to have got into the wrong bank. Now, at this point, there is no one from the NFL that has died. A note left by the murderer cited the NFL and stated that he blamed American football for his apparent struggle with the neurodegenerative disease chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. There you go. It's a tongue twister. Law enforcement sources said Tamura also asked that his brain be studied in the note. According to the sources, the condition can only be diagnosed definitively after death. It can induce symptoms, including impulsive behavior and suicidal thoughts. And the New York City's Office of the Chief Medical Examiner has since confirmed that Tamura's brain will be examined as part of an investigation into his cause of death. It has been a bumper edition of news for you today. Please check us out, channel51.com.au or jasonqcitizen.substack.com, jasonqcitizen1 on X, and this will be also posted on Rumble and on YouTube. I look forward to providing more news for you tomorrow. Have a great day amidst all of what's going on, but bigger things are going to be happening. This is the place to get all your independent news on video. Thank you.